Hi everybody, it's Audrey. Thanks for coming to my channel for my Tis the Season Holiday Scrappin' Series. Today I am using a cut file from the cut shop, and I'm pretty sure this cut file is actually free from the cut shop. This is one of the 12 Days of Christmas cut files. It says Christmas Traditions, and while my photos are not of a tradition yet, it's an event that I am hoping will become a tradition in my family with my kiddos. So I have two 3x4 photos, which I have drawn out here. Just drew some rectangles that are about 3x4, and I am trying to gauge the size of my cut file. And I have actually zero plan going into this about where I'm going to put my photos, excuse me, and what papers I'm going to use. So I went into my stash, and I'm just showing you here that these are basic gray collections. The date I showed you on that one, I'm pretty sure that one was called Dasher. It may have been one of their first collections. It was from 2006. So I am using 14-year-old scrapbook paper from my stash. I can't believe I've had this paper for that long. It's I don't know. Some of it is stuff I would use. I don't. Some of it's really just not my style. But what I think is interesting about using old papers like this is that the techniques have changed so much since these paper lines came out that when you use new techniques with them, like using cut files, for example, which wasn't really big 14 years ago, you can make your pages look just as modern as other pages are now just by the techniques that you use. Or if you use mixed media. I don't happen to use mixed media on this page, but so you can really bring life back to some of your old stash by using the newer techniques on the older papers. And then it doesn't make your papers look so old. Okay, so I just got the Cameo 4 for Christmas, and I tried cutting it with my auto blade. I am still learning which settings work well on my Cameo 4. The auto blade depth was not deep enough to cut that file. I was also using super thick white cardstock, so I had to adjust my settings for a little bit. So I'm recutting it now. And in the meantime, you saw I fussy cut out that big poinsettia from that basic gray paper. And again, I really don't know what my plan for this layout was besides cutting out a title and having my two photos. And so I'm just kind of letting the papers guide me. I did decide that I wanted to do a big circle in the background, kind of as a more softer, like a tone-on-tone pattern, and then leave a nice patterned edge around the edge there, patterned paper around the edge. Okay, so I'm digging through, decide what background papers I want to use. So I have been doing something different lately. Instead of backing every little bit, I have been cutting it on my Cameo and just going back in. So what I'm doing is I released the compound path for this cut file, and I am just picking out the inside. So this I'm going to cut from my pattern papers to put behind my outline. But I want the edge to be a little bit bigger, so I'm going over to my offset window, and I am offsetting it just by a tiny bit. Okay, so like I think I do 0.07, and then you can pull that offset right off, and I'm going to cut that, and you'll see here that it is going to fit perfectly right behind my white outline. So that has been saving me so much time doing it that way instead of backing every little piece of paper, or every little cut area that's cut with a piece of paper, I should say. I'm using my sticky dots sheet to adhere this, so I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm being careful not to let this stick down so I don't have to pull it off again. So I'm going to work over to the right and then carefully stick it down to the left. Now you'll notice I did not, this was dumb of me, I forgot to save the inside, or not save, but cut out the insides of the R, the A, the D, and the O. So luckily I still had the inside pieces of the white. So I'm just going to tape those on there, or adhere them on there. And then I'm going to go back with an X-Acto knife, and I will cut those insides out eventually. So in the meantime, I am going through, this is another basic gray collection. This is Eskimo Kisses. I was just pulling off a couple of the kind of striped Starlight Candy stickers there. I don't know. I just, like I said, I just started cutting out those round shapes from the pattern paper. and I fussy cut another poinsettia. And then I also went back into my cut file and I recut the word Christmas. I didn't like the white. It wasn't bold enough against the background paper I had. It was kind of blending into the background. So I just went through and I cut the word Christmas out from red pattern paper. So when I work with cut files, I also, like this, and I have them a particular size, I do not close out of my file from Silhouette Studio until I'm certain I am done with this page, because if you do want to go back in and, you know, recut a small portion or cut it from a different color, or cut a portion of the cut file in a different color, you don't want to have to go back in and resize the whole thing. So and ask me how I know that, because I've learned that lesson the hard way. You know, you got to make sure that you keep it open until you're certain you are finished with it. So I usually keep it open until I'm done with my page, so I can go back in and do something with it if I need to. So I'm doing a little minor surgery here on fixing up the edges, and I really like the way that looks. I considered changing my background to this color paper, which picked up a little bit more of the word traditions. The red is it's very maroon, and it was you know, had a brown tint to it, and that background paper there, the pattern had the brown tint to it too. I go back to the green because I just think the green adds more of a Christmassy feel. Not that the huge poinsettia on the page doesn't scream Christmas, but you know, I just like the contrast with the green and the red better. And then, so I had the large flower underneath the photos, and then the one in the top right of the photos, and I went through with a punch, and I took a piece of the pattern paper, which was just a scrap that I have apparently used on another page before. I can't quite remember what page I used that on, but anyway, I just cut out some smaller flowers to put by the word traditions so that I could have a visual triangle of flowers. And this one I'm cutting right now, it was on a tag that came. It's like a pack of die cut tags, a sheet of die cut tags, I should say, in the collection kit. But I didn't like the round tag, so I just cut that flower out. I also put a big fabric brad in the middle of, I'm really using some old stuff here. I can't tell you the last time I used brads with backs on them. So that's a big fabric brad in the blue flower there. And I'm going to mat my photos in this green paper, also basic gray. That is Eskimo Kisses collection. I think I was counting as I sorted through some of my stash this weekend. I think I have 5 basic gray Christmas collections. Yeah, I definitely have 5. Because I could name 5 of them off the top of my head right now. That's a lot. I miss basic gray for their, I loved their holiday. They make fabric as well. I'm pretty sure you can buy a lot of these collections in fabric, the same patterns and everything. But okay, so I pulled out a couple journaling tags. These are Simple Stories, I believe, from a Christmas collection they had years ago. And I decided to go with the green. I actually ended up switching my tag out because I realized I had a lot to journal about this page. So there I go back to the green background, and yeah, I like the green background better. So, okay, my tradition that I was starting to tell you about at the very beginning of the video. I'm just moving around circles here on the page, by the way. So when I was growing up, my grandmother and grandfather used to make pierogies all the time. They're Polish. And while I don't really remember making pierogies at Christmas time, I thought it would be something fun to do with the kids. So we tried our hand at making homemade pierogies. They were a huge help. We listened to polkas, and we made the pierogies, and they love to eat pierogies, and it just reminded me so much of my grandma and grandpa. I think about them a lot at Christmas time especially. And so these photos are actually from 2018. They didn't come out so good the first year. They kind of fell apart when we put them in the water. But this year we tried it again. We tried a slightly different recipe, and they were amazing. So it's a tradition I hope to keep doing with my kids so that we could have pierogi every Christmas Eve dinner. Okay, so I mounted my photos with the matting paper, and then I added some foam on the back of them. I glued down my strips, my striped strips there that I had behind my photos, and then you can see I distressed the edges of my large circle, and then I went back and machine stitched around the edge of the large circle with a green thread. I also popped up the tiny circles on the page. I popped them up with some foam squares, and I have some tiny like peppermint candy enamel dots you can see to the right there, and I put those, a few of those, on the page as well. Now I'm just going to adhere those photos down so that they stay in place. I wish I put that right photo up a smidge. Looking at it in the video, that's going to drive me crazy. Although my page is kind of crooked here in the video, but I guess I put some embellishments up there to kind of cover it up, but it just looks a little crooked. But anyway, I'm going to glue the big poinsettia flower at the bottom, add my tag on top. I move my clusters around slightly, my flower clusters, my small ones. I also put red enamel dots in the center of each flower. And then I will pop up this Christmas Traditions title as well with some craft foam. I save all the little bits of this foam. So I buy it in the 8.5 by 11 sheets. I just get it off of Amazon. It's the adhesive backed craft foam. And I save all the little scraps because when you have tiny, I mean, this is not a small cut file, but when you have small areas where you just need a small piece of foam for that dimension, it's really good to use. Okay, so there's the title. I really like what I did with the title with the two-tone red. I think that's pretty, because the title is, I wanted the title to be darker than the other reds in the page. I was almost going to do it in brown, but I'm really glad I found that maroon color. And those brads, by the way, I put a brad in the O of Traditions as well. It came from the same collection. I'm pretty sure that those are also basic gray too. But yeah, I wanted to pick up on that reddish brown maroon color. You see I chose a larger journaling spot there. I did cut it in half so that it fit underneath the title so that I could write a little bit about the story. And I added another flower to the left where the journaling tag is. And I went back and added some journaling. And then I added two tiny stickers, the little black scripty words there that say make merry and joy, just to kind of balance out the black pen in my journaling. So I didn't do any mixed media on this page, which is, there are not many pages I have that I don't use mixed media on, but it didn't need it, I didn't think, because I had a pretty big cut file, some bigger elements on the page, so you really wouldn't have seen too much of the mixed media anyway. And a lot of this basic gray paper kind of looks grungy and has a distressed look to it anyway, so yeah, that does it. So there is my page 10, I think. And that's it for today. Stay scrappy. I'll see you soon for the next video.